Hey, how's it going again, guys? This is Mr. Miles coming at you. This is a very special podcast. This doesn't have to do directly with the notes, but this is one I want to talk to you guys. This is one called How to Study. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because we just had this test, and a lot of you did really good. It's making me realize that I might have to make the test a little bit harder. Not that I, want to make it any trickier or anything, but maybe we could add a little bit of information because you guys have already proved that you can do quite well, and the more information, the better off you're going to be. But don't worry, I'm not going to be mean or anything about it. But I just know you guys can succeed very well. Now, for some of you, you may not have done as good as you liked. Maybe you did pretty good. You got a nice solid B, but you're like, man, I really want to strive for that A. I want to do really good. I've never been that good at science, but I really want to get that A, or I want to get that C up to an A or a B. Or if you got lower and you're like, I just want to do good. I want to give you guys some tips on how to study. And the reason I want to do this is because when I was in college, I was taking a zoology class. And I remember that was the easiest class I ever taken in my life. I had a genetics class that literally I would go home and it was just like, these were my eyeballs by the end of the class. This was my face. And this is how I felt. Rainbows shooting out of my head. Like, this class was absolutely insane. But then I had this other class that I'm like, man, I'm just killing in this class. And then I realized, after meeting with a few of my classmates who said, oh man, this zoology class is so hard. I'm like, no, it's not. It's easy. And it's like, well, why don't we all study together? And I watched how they studied, and I said, oh my goodness. You want to know why it's hard? Because you're studying wrong. Now, I want to be careful about saying studying wrong, because sometimes certain ways of studying help other people. But the way that they were studying, I'm like, I really think there's very few people that can actually, really help out in the best way. And if you can study like that and be successful, then congratulations, you are a very special person. Because most of us, when we think of studying, we think of, and I've seen people do this before, and then they end up bombing the test. Like, I stared at my notes. I read through my notes, and I read through them for 2 hours. I just read through my notes and made sure that I knew what was on my notes. And I think, well, that's probably why you didn't do so good. And for some people, it does work. I will say this. But if you're one of those people like me, because I am what we call dumb. Not really. I'm just not exactly the brightest bulb in the box of bright bulbs. But I found a way that works for me. I may not be the smartest, but I'm a very hard worker. And I learned this method of studying actually helps out the best. And if it let me open a new page, there it goes. So I'm going to use the example of the 6th graders and kind of what they went over. So 7th graders, bear with us. You guys should remember this from last year, but this will help you out. So if you guys haven't noticed, what you have to do first is you have to look at, what does the teacher do? What is the teacher's pattern? And like any person, teachers have patterns. They have certain things that they might emphasize more than others. I don't know exactly what your other teachers do in your math, history, reading, or writing, but they have their own patterns. My pattern, if you notice, I focus a lot on vocab. The reason is because, like I said all the way at the beginning of the year, is if you can understand vocab, understanding the concepts and dissecting things, not like actually physically dissecting things, but dissecting ideas, is a lot easier if you know what the vocab is. So if I say vocab is very important to me and understanding all the concepts in it, the one thing that might set a light bulb off in your head is whenever you see a vocab word in any lesson that we're doing, ding, you should probably remember it. And you may ask yourself, well, Mr. Miles, there's so many vocab words. How am I supposed to remember it? And the way I say is practice makes perfect. So make your own test. Now, you guys have already taken my test, so you know what my tests look like. And my tests almost always look the same. They will always have that multiple choice with the fill in the blank, with some sort of drawing or looking at something and figuring it out. Maybe the drawing thing you won't be able to predict what I'm doing, but you can predict that I will have vocab on there, either in the form of multiple choice or fill in the blank. Now, the best way is to make your test incredibly hard. The harder you make your test, the easier my test will be. You'll look at my test and laugh in my face and say, Mr. Miles, how dumb do you think I am? Really? Really? So this is how I kind of want you guys to do it. Now, this takes a little bit more time, but if you do it this way, oh my goodness, you are going to destroy everything. So let's take 2 words. Let's take autotroph and heterotroph. And let's practice studying for a test. So let's say we have these 2 words, and we know these are 2 vocab words because they're highlighted in yellow. First thing that you want to do is you want to be able to take these words and you want to know what the definition is. So define. So make sure you know the definition. Then, in order to create your practice test, you want to make 2 versions. You want to make one version where you have these words left blank and you just work on writing out the definitions. Then you have a second version where you have the definition written out and then you try and list what the word is. And the way to do this is take all of your vocab words, and do it the first way. So you write out all the words and you leave yourself a space to define it. And what you want to do is you want to make copies of it. You might want to make about 8 copies of this. And then you do it the other way too, where you have the definition wrote out, but you have blanks left for where the word should do. Again, make 8 copies of this. And what you should do is practice taking that test. Fill in all the right words, fill in all the blanks. If you do it both ways, not only will you understand, okay, if I hear the definition, I know it's this word, and if I see the word, then I know the definition, you'll also start to understand the concepts and see how they're linked together. So on top of doing, like your little things of, reading through the books and reading through notes, those are all good, but the best way to learn it is to really do it this way. And the reason I say make 8 is because on average, it'll take you about 8 times to get a perfect score. And keep going. Whoops, I don't know, I flipped all the way up there. Oh my gosh, studying wrong. Keep going until you get 100% every single time you know it forwards and backwards. And even to top it off, make sure the next day you can take the same test and still get 100%. If you can do something like that, I promise you, your grade will improve. If you already got 100%, it's really not going to improve past that. But this is a really good way to study. Now, maybe right now in middle school, this may not fit for you. But trust me, once you get into a different field that you really want to challenge and push yourself in, they're going to give you a lot of information. And at least for me, this is the best way that I organize it, is giving myself, practice tests and writing them myself. Now, I'm going to put up another one. I want to keep this one short, but I'll put up another one, another study technique. But if you guys could, try and practice this technique. If you did not ace my test, try and practice this technique. It does take time. I'm not going to lie to you. It does take time. But even if you don't have to use it in my class, even if you find a different way that works better, in the future, you might want to use it. So keep this in mind as a really good study technique. And as you get better at it, you know what? It'll start to take less and less and less time because maybe you'll not have to go to 8 anymore, but you can switch down to 5. Because taking each test should take you about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how long it is. It shouldn't really take that long. And another trick is when you're taking this test is time yourself. Do not second guess yourself. No second guessing. Write down the answer as fast as you can. Don't sit there and think for more than, I would say don't think for more than about 5 to 10 seconds. Because if you can't get it then, just move on. And what you're doing is you're going back and you're looking at your testing, okay, I got this one wrong. Read what the right answer is, put all that stuff away, and then retake the entire test. Even if you got 90% of it right, retake the entire thing. And again, try and do that 5 to 10 seconds of no second guessing. That'll also get you in the habit of when you're actually taking tests, and if you're taking time tests, when you take the ACTs or SATs, they will seem like such a breeze because you will have learned how to do things without second guessing yourself and move through them quickly, so it gives you more time to go back and double check all your answers. Again, if you want to, email me at bmiles@somersetnlv.org. And I will give you any other testing tips until I put up the next one. That's really going to help you guys out. So try this one, see if it works. We'll talk about it a little bit in class. But again, like I said, this is what helped me. This is what made that zoology class the easiest thing in the world when it was nightmares for other people. And eventually I learned a different technique to kind of apply to genetics. Because sometimes you don't get tests that focus a lot on the vocabulary and ideas that you can predict that the teacher's going to do. But there are strategies to even overcoming that. And so that's what I'm going to talk about next time. So you guys have a great night, and until next time, I will see you in class.